This week, we've seen a new beta update hit the Steam client, and it removed a feature. And it's been a long time coming. We'll discuss. Plus, Bazzite gets a new update, and this hardware modder made her own Steam Deck? Yeah, all of this and more today. That's right, it's Steam Deck and Linux gaming news time. Alright, the first story I want to talk about is Valve has recently updated the Steam backend and Steam store pages so that developers can disclose the types of anti-cheat that they have included with their games. Now, I love this because it shows that Valve is committed to making sure that customers make informed purchases on their platform. But that's not all. They've also updated their policies to require disclosure for any games that include kernel mode anti-cheat. Quote, going forward, when you submit a new game to Steam, if your game installs a client-side kernel mode anti-cheat, you will need to fill out this new anti-cheat field. We will be going through old games and contacting partners with games that fall into this category. If your game contains a client or server-based anti-cheat that is not kernel-based, submitting the field is optional, but we generally think that any game that makes use of anti-cheat technology would benefit from letting players know. This is a welcome change, as is any requirement to inform customers before making a purchase. I really appreciate this. Next up, the new Bazzite launch just hit, and it coincides with the new Fedora 41 release. This brings a large number of updates for handhelds, many backend improvements, and goodies from Fedora, Bazzite's upstream distro. Now, in terms of handheld support, we've seen a bunch of patches for a whole tranche of Ioneo devices, as well as the ROG Ally, the 1X Player X1 and X1 Mini, and others. There are fixes for bespoke hardware in each device. For example, the fixes for the ROG Ally include correct firmware for the Ally's speakers, which offer superior performance now over the incorrect firmware. This new Bazzite also includes game scope and game mode changes as well. On the Ally, for example, the frame rate limiter now works down to 12 Hz when VRR is enabled. Then they've disabled VRR and limited the FPS on the Steam menu, which according to them halves battery use while in the Steam UI on the Ally, the Legion Go, and any other display that is above 120 Hz or more. Now, this update was absolutely massive, and I'm quite pleased with the changes here. It includes a new Linux kernel and a whole lot more, so you can check out the full blog post with the link below. And while you're down there, why not like that smash button? It's the best way to tell YouTube you want to see more videos just like this. And did you know that I release a new video every Monday and Friday morning? Get subscribed so you don't miss those. Now, I want to thank Felix and the other amazing Singularity members over on my Patreon. I recently pledged that this channel would be 100% sponsor-free, and I was able to do that because of folks like Felix. So if you believe in the work that I'm doing and you want to help support this show, you can make a monthly contribution using the links below. All right, let's get back to the news. So on Monday, I reviewed the Framework Laptop 13, and I had a lot of nice things to say about it. One of my favorite things is that you get to assemble it yourself. And I offhandedly mentioned that it would be really cool if Framework came out with a handheld gaming form factor that worked the same way. Well, wouldn't you know it, that's exactly what Beth Lee asked herself, and by George, we have ourselves the Beth Deck, a completely solderless and mostly off-the-shelf gaming handheld that you can build yourself. All you need is a 3D printer and to go shopping for some off-the-shelf components, and you can have the whole thing assembled in about 15 minutes. The parts list is modest, too. I mean, you're only looking at something like $140 in components, besides the main board and storage and stuff like that. Now, if you want something like the Ryzen 7 7840U, then you'll need to procure a Framework Laptop 13 mainboard, which, coincidentally, I just reviewed. It performs exceptionally well with Linux and Windows games through Proton, and that's with a 2.8K screen. And this display is only 800p like the Steam Deck, so this thing should absolutely blaze through most games. And it's pretty neat to see someone taking one of these ready-made boards and making something even cooler with them. But yeah, I think this is like a great thing. I love seeing community mods. I think it's super neat, and I'm really kind of curious to try to build one of these myself. Let me know if you'd like to see that in the comments below. All right, now it's time for the weekly deals where we review the bundles and sales that'll help you grow your library. And, this week doesn't disappoint because we've got Halloween sales out the wazoo here. If you're into scary games, this is a good week for you. First up, Steam's Halloween sale is live right now. It goes through November 4th, and it's got some excellent deals for scary and not so scary titles. Some of my personal favorites are The Outer Wilds at 40% off, Return to Monkey Island at 50% off, Inscription at 60%, Loop Hero and Sonic Mania are 75% off, and titles like Alan Wake and Mad Max are 80% off. Not to be outdone though, GOG has also got in on the Halloween sale deal. There's games like Star Trek Bridge Commander, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, which you can use to set up Open RCT2, which is like a really great open source engine for Roller Coaster Tycoon. Then there's Rayman 2 and Rayman 3, which are 75% off. There's Batman Arkham Asylum, which is 80% off. Fear Platinum, 90% off. And Hitman Blood Money, which is also 90% off. And there's a bunch of other great games on GOG. You can find the link below. Finally, Humble has got the Dark Pictures and Little Nightmares horror collection. And this collection has got 7 games that are sure to give you the jibblies. All in all, this is a scary, awesome time to play video games for sure. Let me know in the comments what you're going to be picking up. All right, finally, let's touch on the Steam Deck betas that hit this week. Now, first up, let's talk about the October 28th beta. Now, this update focused on the game recording features with a fix to reduce clip export and share time when exporting at the native resolution, codec, and frame rate. They also added the ability to start and stop recording of a clip via manual recording shortcut keys when in background recording mode. On October 29th, they improved the navigation of game recording settings in big picture mode, but also, interestingly, they extended recent Steam Play fixes to third-party compatibility tools. But the biggest update was actually on October 25th, which ushered in some interesting changes. First, they added some game recording features, including support for automatic gain control for microphone recording, and some fixes for other microphone-related issues. Then in big picture mode, they fixed keyboard input for dialog boxes. But where things got really interesting is how Valve has removed the UI toggle to disable Steam Play globally on Linux. This means that the desktop Linux client now has Steam Play enabled globally for all games by default, which was a very confusing step that needed to be taken for the uninitiated to have access to their full library on Linux. Now, here's the thing. Even if you had Steam Play disabled globally in Steam on Linux, there were still a few games that Valve had flagged as working with Proton, which would just show up in your library, even if you had Proton disabled. And this list of games had been in place since Proton was introduced into the Steam client many years ago. But that list was rarely, if ever, updated, even with the rollout of the Steam Deck Verified program. And it's been a long time coming for them to remove this arbitrary list and just let Proton work for Linux gamers. Now, what could this be signaling? Is this Valve just moving to bring the desktop Linux client into feature parity with the Steam Deck client? I don't know. Go ahead and read the tea leaves in the comments below. I'm really excited to hear your speculation on this. Well, I think that's going to do it for this video. I want to thank my members on Patreon and my YouTube supporters for making this show a reality. If you want to see your name listed over here, then you can use the links below to make a monthly contribution below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on Monday.